Welcome. On this edition of Life Stories, we meet the first blind man to run 7 marathons in 7 continents over 7 days. And if that's not enough, a few weeks ago, he ran what some people describe as the toughest race in the world, the Marathon des Sables, across the Sahara Desert. It's a very warm welcome to Life Stories for Dave Heeley from West Bromwich. Hello, Dave.
Thank you.
How are you going?
I'm fine, thanks.
And you brought Seamus with you.
Yeah, Seamus, the guide dog, is with me. He's always at my side. He's a superstar now, you see. He likes the camera, I think.
He likes the camera. There's been lots of TV interviews after all your achievements. You've had four guide dogs, I know.
Yeah.
Have they all been very different in character?
Oh, blimey, yeah. I mean, I always characterise them, and they have. They've been fantastic dogs, fantastic workers. I mean, Peter was my first one. Introduced me to, as I say to the kids at school, Pete was a rogue. A rogue. If there was going to be a teddy bear, a slipper or some Black Forest Gatto, he was going to be the one that was going to take it. But on saying that, as a worker, he was brilliant. So I always said to the kids, he would have been a rogue. If he'd have been human, he'd have been inside by now. And then I had my second guide dog, which was Carla, the only female I've had, and she was my princess. She was a dog in a million, fantastic. It's going to take a good one to beat her. My third one was a retriever cross shepherd, and he was Wixie. And the way to explain Wixie, if he was one of the 7 dwarfs, he'd have certainly been dopey.
Oh, really?
Oh,
did he get a few things wrong?
Oh, yes. But a wonderful worker, but unfortunately he was sort of, we used to have a few disagreements. He thought we'd go left and I wanted to go right, you know, but he was still good. And then I've got the new lad on the block, Seamus, German Shepherd, lovely lad, 3.5 years with me now. And to coin a phrase on Seamus, he's a bit of a journalist. He always wants to know what's round the next corner.
Except today. Yeah, he looks a little bit tired.
Oh, he's very chilled today. He's very, very chilled. He's had a little chew, and he's down on the floor, and he thinks, right, the cameras are rolling. They're all going to be on him, so you know, the superstar is relaxing.
Right. Well, the superstar. Well, you're the superstar. Goodness me, after this Marathon des Sables. But let's go back to the early days. Now, I've got in my notes here that you are 39 years of age plus 216 weeks. No, months.
Months, correct.
That's a bit cheeky.
Well, I'm never going to reach the age of 40.
Cheekier still. But having done a little bit of maths, which took me a long time, you were born in the late 50s.
I was indeed.
But you keep the age at about a comfortable setting.
Without a doubt.
Tell us about your early days in West Bromwich.
I was a normal kid, I thought. Brought up on a council estate. Went to your normal primary and infant school. Moved on to the normal secondary school in your area. I was always known as a bit of a clumsy kid because in and around the area, if there was going to be a bike hit a car or somebody fell over a wall, there was a cut, a graze or a bruise, it was going to be me. And sadly, at the age of 10, the realisation of that clumsy scenario came to fruition because I was diagnosed at the Birmingham Eye Hospital with a disease of the eye called retinitis pigmentosa. I was born with the disease, and I've always had night blindness, but of course people then realised the fact that I was told in layman's terms that I was simply going blind. So the clumsy kid stopped and stayed with me, but then the realisation of what was actually happening to me came to the forefront.
And did they give you that full news when you were 10 years of age? They didn't hold anything back?
No, there was nothing held back. I always remember the words from the consultant, you know, all the fancy words, all the fancy phrases, and he said, son, in simple terms, you're going blind.
How did you cope with that?
At 10 years of age, it didn't affect me in any way, shape or form because I can remember the day clearly, looking out of the window thinking, well, I can still see the sun, still see the fluffy blue sky and the fluffy little clouds. I've got my shoot book that was there, the magazine at the time, reading that, and I thought, blind? What's all this blindness about? And so, you know, the realisation, no, didn't affect me in any way.
Did your friends know soon after that? I mean, did you tell your chums at school?
Yeah, I was a little bit of a celebrity when I went back to school because I was the only one in the sort of town at the time that was going blind, you know. And wow, Dave's going blind, but it just still didn't have any effect on me because I don't think I realised exactly what was happening at 10 years of age.
But as your teenage years crept in, things got worse, didn't they, as far as your
Yeah.
eyesight is concerned?
Yeah.
So, I mean, was it a slow deterioration? I mean, can you talk us through that?
Yeah, it was. It was very, very slow. I mean, the sort of scenario that I tend to use when I'm talking to children in the schools is, you know, on a Monday I saw the house across the road. On the Tuesday I saw the wall. On the Wednesday I saw the gutter. On the Thursday I see the white line in the middle of the road. And on the Friday I'm scratching my head thinking, what happened to that house on Monday? It didn't happen that quick, but that's the sort of scenario. And
So instead of those days that you've just went through, it was years.
yeah, it was years. Yeah, you know,
the sight deteriorated.
the kettle disappeared one day, and you think, oh no, what happened to that? You know, but it was one of those kind of things. It was just, unfortunately, it was a slow progressive decline, if you want to, on my side.
May I ask you, at what point did you start thinking, why is this happening to me? I mean, you must have felt wronged.
Yeah, when I came towards the end of my my schooling years, sadly, the ball started disappearing on the football pitch. I had to pack up the cross country because I started running into trees and posts.
That's right. You were a good runner, weren't
Yeah,
you?
I
A
used to
champion runner,
enjoy
in
it.
fact, as
Yeah.
a teenager.
My claim to fame, I was the West Brom Town champion, 1,500 metres for 5 years, which was fabulous.
Good for you.
But then the white lines on the track started disappearing, and my sport actually finished completely at the age of 16, which was very disappointing. And when I left school, one of my ambitions was my career, which was to join the army. And at the age of 17, slowly moving towards 18, I went to have a medical. And I knew in my heart of hearts what was going to happen, but I'm one of these that I can't just be told yes and no to. I have to go and find out. And I went for the medical, I passed the physical, and unfortunately the doctor, due to my eyesight, said I was exempt. And that day was when the realisation of what blindness was going to do to me hit me like a steam train. And
were you in a kind of denial? Because if
Yeah.
you knew that you were, or you'd been told that
Yeah.
you were going blind, may I ask why you actually applied to go into the army?
well, I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want to accept blindness. I tried to hide blindness. I tried to make people, or myself, if you want to, believe that it wasn't going to happen. And, you know, you try and hide things away, which was a silly thing to do and a silly thing for people to be listening to now. You're thinking, how the hell can you hide blindness? But I tried my very, very best. But once my career had been taken away, I honestly thought then that my life, or should I say blindness, was robbing me of a life. And it was then that, you know, although I still lived and I still had the smile on my face, and friends and family, you know, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. I wasn't. Deep down, I was hurting. You know, inside of me, I was beating myself up. I was very angry with myself, very bitter with myself, not with anybody in particular. It was my problem. And I went on a bit of a journey, which I believe we all do at times. And over a period of 3 or 4 years, I had to sort my head out, I guess. And
You went to the Queen Alexandra
yeah.
College in Birmingham, didn't you?
Yeah, that was a little bit later on.
Where you learnt Braille and
Yep.
and woodwork.
Around about 1996, which was a good while after, which was then when I'd sort of started to realise that, you know, there was more to living than worrying about yourself, and hopefully I grabbed the positive sides of life. But yeah, around about 1996, a lot of things started happening to me, basically. I was introduced to guide dogs. I'd accepted
Met
the fact...
Peter for the first time, your first dog.
That's
yes.
right. I accepted the fact that blindness was coming. And the day that I accepted that and owned up to it, knocked that pride chip off my shoulder, I started sort of living, and Deb, the wife, says now, you know, I am comfortable in my own shoes with it all, and that's great. But yeah, in 1996, I was introduced to guide dogs. I was introduced to the Queen Alexandra College, and all sorts of things happened to me. And yeah, it was great.
So was that a point where you said, right, face up to the condition, you can either be negative or you can be positive?
Yeah.
And it seems that at that point you chose the positive way forward.
Yeah, I like to think so. It was probably a couple of years before that I sort of accepted things, and I accepted my fate, and things were going to be moving forward. But, you know, the college I really enjoyed. I really got to grips with learning Braille. I got to grips with computers, although I'm not the best computer chappie in the world, but at least I can throw a key out here and there. And
well, Dave, that's obviously a defining year for you.
yeah.
And we'll continue with your incredible story after the break. Welcome back to Life Stories. I'm in conversation with Dave Heeley from West Bromwich, the first blind man to run the sevens, 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. An incredible achievement. We'll hear all about it in a moment. But at the end of part 1, we'd reached 1996, which is a big year for you.
Yeah.
You'd been to Queen Alexandra College in Birmingham, and then you had a few jobs. Tell us about some of the jobs that you did.
Yeah, well, I mean, going back a little bit before that, actually, I had my own business for about 8 or 9 years, 10 years or so in the building industry, which was selling, distributing suspended ceilings petitions, and there was also a joinery company allied to it. Sadly, in the very early 90s, with the recession, bad debt, bad luck and bad eyesight put paid to that. But, you know, there were some great years. But there was one particular episode going back many, many years, actually. Friends at the time was sort of having a knock at me. I was thinking, going back, you know, a lot younger than that, I was probably on about 12 or 13 pounds a week. That's how silly it was. You know, we can double your wage. There's a job going at the warehouse. It's a forklift truck driver and warehouseman. And I thought, forklift truck driving, me? I thought, and I thought, oh, blow it. He's going to double my wage, isn't he? We'll look after the forklift truck driving, I said. You just put the stuff in the boxes, okay? Well, inevitably, it was going to happen. Supervisor asked, Dave, you got to get on that forklift truck. I thought, it's going to happen. So the one day I was on there and I was pressing the controls up and down thinking, this is not a very good idea at all. And I have to say, there was a foreman's office. When I hit it...
A foreman's office?
There was. And I hit it, and there was a lot of breaking glass. And as you can well imagine, it was not the ideal thing for a sort of a bloke who was pretty well blind to get on a forklift truck. I didn't own up to it. And when they spoke to me, they said, why didn't you tell us you got a problem with your sight? And I said, well, you didn't ask. As you can appreciate, I was asked to leave.
So, you were asked to leave, were you?
Oh, yeah. But, yes, no harm done. Fortunately, the foreman wasn't in the office.
I was going to say, yes, well, yeah, I'm glad that you own up to it. Yes, good man. Yeah, silly thing to do at the time. But,
most definitely, yeah.
Good. Well, I think you've got a fantastic sense of humour, I must say. But let's move on to the running. I know that as a teenager, when you had your sight, that you were a champion runner locally in the Black Country. Yeah. But then, what inspired you to start thinking about marathons?
Again, it all happened one Saturday evening. I was with my second guide dog, Carla. I was in a club, and we've all done it, haven't we? We've all had a couple of beers, too many. And a gentleman came up and expressed the fact that he'd been watching me and Carla work as a team around the area, would love to raise some money for guide dogs. And I said, well, I'm a fundraiser. What are you going to do? I'm going to run the London Marathon. And I instantly said, well, I'll tell you what. I'll leave the dog at home. You become my guide dog if you want to for the day, and I'll run London with you. It took a few seconds for him to say, go on then. I got up the next morning. Deb said to me, do you realise what you said last night? And I said, I do. And in 2002, just over 12 months later, I ran my first London Marathon in 4 hours and 16 minutes. And as they always say, you'll hit the finish line and you'll throw the trainers as far away as you can, or you'll love it. And I loved it. And from there on in, I just haven't looked back.
I was going to say, you've never looked back.
Yeah.
Now, talk us through some of the marathons that you've run and lead us up to the big one on 7 continents.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be doing this year's London Marathon, and that'll be my 13th. But I've done 12 consecutive. I've run New York. I've run the Great North series, like the Great North Run, the Great South, the Great Birmingham, the Great Manchesters. I've done many, many half marathons and marathons around the country, and in fact across the world. In training, I've done an awful lot of marathons, in fact a lot of ultras. But where it all began for the 7 marathons was in 2003, hearing Sir Ranulph Fiennes tell of his story of him becoming the first man in the world to do. I thought, now, I'm always looking for that extra quid on a sponsor form. Could it be? So, 2003 started me organising the 7 marathon run. 5 years later, in 2008, standing on the Falkland Islands on the 7th of April, I began what was ultimately, I thought, the adventure of my life. And it was the 7th of April, Falkland Islands, Antarctica. I did marathon number 1. And then after 6 hours of flying and 8 hours of sort of travelling with immigration, etc., we ended up on the same morning in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and South America to do marathon number 2.
Incredible.
On the Tuesday the 8th, we flew to Los Angeles and did marathon number 3. We lost a day. We lost, because of the date line, we lost a day, and I ended up in Australasia, in Sydney, on the Thursday, which was the 10th. Hence the 2 on the Monday. And then we flew to Dubai and Asia on the Friday. Then on the 12th of April, the penultimate, which was in Africa, in Tunisia. And then on Sunday, the 13th of April, at the London Marathon, which is a very special marathon to me, but it became the 7th marathon of the week. And in fact, it became my 7th consecutive London Marathon. And at the London line, on the 13th of April, I became the first and only blind person in the world to have undertaken 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents.
What an achievement. That's incredible. So, what did you feel like physically? I mean, were you exhausted? Did you have any medical problems?
Nope. I had one slight problem with my right calf, which I pulled at some point, but you know, nothing sort of that was going to, well, nothing devastating. I just had to run through a little bit of pain there. But no, I do believe that because of the nature of the challenge, the adrenaline, it was just fantastic. I hit that London line and the feelings that went through me were just now undescribable. There was pain, there was pleasure, there was laughter. I was glad that it was all over, and yet I was so sad it was over, you know, the anticlimax, what was going to be next. But at that London line, for a milliseconds, I was just cockaloopy.
I was going to say, you're on top of the world.
Yeah, a very,
Brilliant.
very proud moment. We'd finished, we completed. It was important to me as the first blind person, but what was more important, I was supporting Guide Dogs for the Blind, and the awareness that we created globally and also the funding that followed was just phenomenal. So it was a win-win situation for everybody.
The runner from West Bromwich.
Yeah, this old codger
And
from
you
West
even
Brom.
this old codger from West Brom. And you even run away to get married.
Yeah, we did. In 2005,
Debbie, yeah?
me and Deb, yeah. We'd had the children, and we were decided to get married, and we decided to get married in Gretna Green. And it came a little bit of a game for us because our house is like New Street Station, and still is. And when the post comes, it's a case of, you know, everybody's picking it up, here's your post. And we were sort of arranging the wedding and the rings and all that sort of things. And we said, I wonder how long we can go before somebody picks up and says, what are you doing up in Scotland, you know, especially Gretna? And we carried it on. And 6 months later, the mum-in-law and mother, they had the children, and me and Deb shot off to Gretna. We got married, and at 12 o'clock noon, and about 12:30, 1:15, we were back in the hotel ringing everybody and asking them to ring us. And they were all going, what are you doing in the wedding suite at such and such? We've just got married.
Good for you.
It was brilliant.
Well, you're obviously a great runner, fantastic runner, and a very romantic man. But we must now just turn to this recent achievement. You're just back from the Sahara and the toughest race in the world, as it's described by many. Well done. And just for a moment, talk us through that. We haven't got much time.
Well,
but
I'm going to show you my medal. I'm going to show you my medal I'm proud of. The Marathon des Sables.
Yes.
Running across the Sahara, 6 days. It's the toughest foot race on the planet, and believe you me, whoever put it down is right. There were sand dunes, there was rocks, there was riverbeds, there was crevasses, there was ravines. They threw 3 or 4 mountains at us. We were up as high as 2,000 feet. We were pulling ourselves up on rope. I was abseiling off the back of them. 16 miles of sand dunes, a 24-hour day and nighter. It was just the most incredible adventure and challenge of my life. Plus, we were totally self-sufficient. We had to sleep, eat, breathe, cook, live in the desert for 6 days. And it was just unbelievable. I still don't believe yet I've done it. It hasn't sunk in. I'm sure it will do over the next, the coming weeks. But the more and more I'm talking about it, the more and more you realise. But I'm still pinching myself. 2 weeks ago, was I really sitting in the Sahara Desert, or was I running and walking and crawling and sleeping? And I know I did. But it's just an unbelievable challenge.
You must be incredibly fit, because some people take a flight for a few hours and suffer from jet lag for a few days, and you run across the Sahara and come back and you look tremendous.
I don't know about fit. Fit to drop, I think. I probably look a lot better than I feel. But I have to say, on that trek, I had 2 wonderful, wonderful guides, Tony and Rosemary, and they were unbelievable that week, because without them, I couldn't do it.
Dave,
it was fantastic.
Well done. I mean, everyone in the Black Country and the Birmingham area, the West Midlands, so proud of you.
Thank you.
Dave Heeley, thank you for telling us your life story.
Thank you for sharing it. Thank you.